According to a new report by the Palast Investigative Fund, our good friend at Ring of Fire here, Greg Palast, the state of Georgia last year alone purged roughly 200,000 people from their voting rolls, even though more than 60% of them did not meet the criteria that the Georgia Secretary of State had accused them of meeting. Here's what happened according to the report. Georgia's Secretary of State looked at the voting rolls, went through doing what they call, quote, routine maintenance, and found about 200,000 people that the Secretary of State then said, hey, all of these people moved. All of them did not file a change of address form. Therefore, all of them inadmissible. You're off the voting roll. You got to fix it, and then we'll put you back on. Well, the Palast Investigative Fund looked into this. They hired people to go through and look at this, and they found out that 63% of them never moved at all. They're still in the same place. The Georgia Secretary of State was 100% lying. So you had more than 100,000 people that were kicked off the voting rolls that should not have been. In a state that, much like other swing states like Florida, 100,000 people could absolutely determine the outcome or change the outcome in a state like Georgia today. And the Secretary of State understands that. That's why they've spent the last several years purging without giving any regard to whether or not what they're doing is legal, whether or not what they're doing is proper, and whether or not these people are actually legitimate voters. They have also been going through, according to the report, and purging people that they claim are inactive voters. Even though last time I checked, not voting, even if you're registered to vote, is not disqualifying. I know Republicans are trying to make it a disqualifying thing, like if you didn't vote in the last two elections, you lose your registration. You actually can't do that. But that is the kind of suppression efforts we are dealing with this year. It's not just Donald Trump's attacks on voting by mail. It's states like Georgia that are just arbitrarily going through the voting rolls, looking at Democrats, because that's what most of them are, and just saying, nope, take them off. And here's what happens. If you do not get that notice, which a lot of these people do not get the notice that they've been kicked off the voting roll, you show up to vote. Your name is not on the roll. You don't get to cast a real ballot. Typically, they will give you a provisional ballot. Those may or may not always get counted. It just depends. Because if they're looking through and say you're, Farron Smith, and you didn't move, you shouldn't have been removed. So they let Farron Smith fill out this provisional ballot, and then they go to check and see if it works. But there was another Farron Smith who did move. Well, this Farron Smith doesn't match that Farron Smith. We're not going to take the time to see if it's the same Farron Smith. So we're just going to throw it away. There we go. That's actually what happens in a lot of these instances. It's just people with the same name, because, hey, that's common. It happens. Not for all of us. I've never met another Farron Cousins. However, there's plenty of people with the same name. That's what we see when states try to purge people because they say, oh, you're a convicted felon, you can't vote because your name is, John Smith. Yeah, you got 100,000 John Smiths in your state. How do you know which is which? Well, we don't, so we just purge them all. That's the kind of crap we're dealing with, folks. These are things that legitimately happen and have been happening for over 20 years that we know of. And it's going to be so much worse this year. Republican-controlled states understand how much Donald Trump is hated. They know that the public does not like him. They do not want him to be president. He is facing quite possibly the toughest road to re-election that we have seen of an incumbent in many, many years. And that's why they got to go to the dirty tricks. That's why they got to resort to cheating. Because that is exactly what this is. But that is also one of the reasons why we have such great people out there like Greg Palast, Brad Friedman, Ari Berman, out there exposing this stuff and warning us, as they have been for decades, that we got to do something about this before it's too late.